Page 74. All that the gods have learnt is their self-known. There, in a hidden chamber, closed and mute, are kept the record graphs of the cosmic scribe. And there, the tables of the sacred law. There is the book of being's index page. The text and glossary of the Vedic truth are there. The rhythm and meters of the stars, significant of the movements of our fate. The symbol powers of number and of form, and the secret code of the history of the world and nature's correspondence with the soul are written in the mystic heart of life. So, that is the plunge of the consciousness. He realizes the plunging of the, by plunging into the darkest base, the lowest base, there, when he says there, it is the foundation. In that foundation, slowly in a hidden chamber glows, closed and mute, which seems to be total unconsciousness, total inertia, total tamas. All the truths of the future manifestation are lodged. It's like from there everything grows. From darkness, light grows. Obviously, light is hidden somewhere in the darkness. From lifelessness, life grows. The secret of life is there. So that is the experience, even of the rishis, that the truth is not on the surface. It is behind, it is within, it is always the whole world of manifestation is a symbolic representation of a gradual manifestation of the divine. It's progressive. So that the gods have learnt, all that the gods have learnt is their self-known. The gods are emanations of light. They have not really gone into the darkness. They're projections of the supreme light. Here, the rishi has projected himself also in the darkness. And having gone into the darkness, realizes that darkness is not the opposite of light. It is the source of light. It is the foundation, the base, slowly out of which all things emerge. And which is why that notion, which is the mental notion that you have to reject one aspect of life in order to accept the other, which the gods often do. The gods reject one thing in order to accept another. Each god is representative of one principle. The God of light, the God of truth, the God of love, the God of joy, the God of power. Doesn't know anything else other than that. So they have to slowly realize they are all projections of the original sun. Here he's experiencing that sun. Self-known. It is not a gradual learning, it is a becoming. The whole secret of experience, of truth, of knowledge is a becoming.
This there refers to all that the gods have learned is there.
There. In that hidden chamber, closed and mute. The whole thing is a description of the hidden chamber. The hidden chamber that is below the subconscious, below even the inconscious. The original starting point, which seems to be nothing. That out of that nothing, everything has slowly come out. Out of the formlessness, the beginning of form in the world of matter. At a certain point in time, matter has become solidified out of the formless energy. Out of that form, at some point, the first signs of life emerge. Then that life grows. All this is energy. It is coming out slowly. Everything comes out slowly. That means all the possibilities were already there. Because they are there, they come out. They couldn't have come out otherwise. So there, in a hidden chamber. So the whole principle of knowledge is that the mind that divides light from darkness has now been overpassed by this seer who recognizes the divine presence everywhere. The origin is below as well as above. It is not that he is only below, he is not only above. God is not far away in some remote world of light. He is that light, true. He is also that which doesn't seem to be light, because nothing is that is not the divine. Nothing can be. So in that chamber are kept the record graphs of the cosmic scribe. You get the image of the progressive emergence. It's following a pattern. It's very systematic. It is as if the divine has one aspect of evolution that is extremely systematic. There is a kind of a development. It is not random. There is a movement that leads from A to B, from the lesser to the greater. And that's like a graph. It's following a pattern. And the sacred law. The tables are the laws. Tables are the original laws, like the tablets. So this, here he is referring to the Vedic truth. The Vedic rishis recognized the power of the divine working in all things that are outwardly not necessarily resembling our notion of what is the divine. You may see the soil, you may see the rain, you may see the wind or hear the wind, and you may not recognize that this is part of the divine plan. You say these are happenings. You say it might rain today. That is also organized. It's not simply a kind of something that is a meteorological or weather forecast. There is a pattern, there is a will that is at work, something is working. Even when what happens, what we call disaster or catastrophe, even that is part of a plan. Nothing in the universe can be outside that plan, whether we recognize it or not. That is what the rishis saw. Every single thing is part of the plan. Mother talks about it towards the end especially. Every atom, every cell, every movement, every flow of the blood in every vein has its own pattern, has its own laws. It is sustained by a divine wisdom. So the rhythms and the meters of the stars, giving you the image of something that is really so well, you might say, arranged, like a metrical pattern in a poem. There is regularity, there is rhythm, there is pattern. Rhythm gives you a sense of repetition, a sense of a beat of the play of energy, that rhythmical beat which is the sign of control. It's not something that is out of control. It is regularly controlled by a supreme consciousness. Behind the play of everything, there is a supreme consciousness that is really at work and controlling everything. So, each movement, significant of the movements of our fate. We say often that our stars are connected with our lives. There is a kind of connection. And Sri Aurobindo says there is some truth in this. That is to say, we are part of a single universe. There is a certain rhythm, a play, a cyclical pattern, and at the time of my birth, I was, for instance, there was a particular pattern of stars and planets in the sky. And somewhere there is a connection. It to suggest that everything is interconnected. Nothing is just by itself, hanging on its own. So they signify It is not, this can be overcome. You can go beyond it. But the pattern is there. You can break a pattern. That is different when you control everything. So number, form, all these things are expressions of that arrangement, that pattern. And again, the secret code of the history of the world and nature's correspondence with the soul. Nature is matter. Nature is an outward manifestation. Soul is spirit. And matter and soul often are considered to be opposite to one another. But there is no opposite. That's for our own, you might say, convenience, that we have put matter in one compartment and spirit in the other. But there is nothing that is without the soul. Matter is the source of the soul. Matter is the house of the spirit. House is solid. A house is made of bricks and stone. A house is made of matter, but a house is a spirit. Spirit, we live in a particular state of consciousness. That consciousness is my house. We live in a body. That body has a particular consciousness or lack of it. That is my house. It can be an old broken down house, which is the way we are sometimes. But the presence of the divine is everywhere. Whether we realize it or we don't. We don't realize it. But the whole purpose of evolution is slowly to recognize the working of this, gradually to become aware of what we fundamentally are. We are not alone in the universe, a human thinking being in a mindless universe. The universe is matter, and I'm the only thinking being like a human being. Nothing is mindless. Nothing is soulless. Nothing is without the spirit. It is my short-sightedness, it is my ignorance, it is my incapacity to really recognize this. So when the mind, which is very sure of itself, since for a very long time it has been my guide, I say, this is what I understand, this is what is right. I believe, the rest is not. But the answer is that you have to widen your understanding. Go deeper. See the whole and not the part. Not judge the whole on the basis of a partial knowledge. Mind has always got a partial knowledge. So the truth of nature's and its connection with the spirit are written in the heart of life. Life is the original energy that is behind manifestation. The four principles that the Supreme emanated out of himself, one of the four was life. The field of manifestation. The possibilities of manifestation are there. Until life comes in, there is no manifestation. When life comes in, she projects out of herself the play, the energy, and slowly there is a manifestation that takes place. Life is the field. It is in life that is body and matter and mind. They all take slow evolutionary forms. It is in life that the spirit has to be realized. And that is what is special in Sri Aurobindo's vision. We don't have to give up life. We don't have to withdraw from life to find reality and find the truth beyond in some transcendent Brahman. Life is the field of all experience. So she is the mystic miracle, daughter of delight. Only at present her radius is not eternity. There is ignorance that has come in. So you have read that very beautiful little poem by Sri Aurobindo where he addresses life. He says, mystic miracle, daughter of delight, because all things have their origin in Ananda. Ananda is the delight of manifestation. Life is that Ananda. And that Ananda in our smallness cannot be contained. It gets broken. Death steps in, suffering steps in, and life is cut short. But if I can contain the infinite Ananda in my being, in every part. It means I have to first remove all darkness from my nature, all weakness. All weakness is something that refuses to open itself to the divine influence. We have fear, we have weakness, we have all our attachment to our present nature. All these things shut us down. We cannot receive the whole. We have to open ourselves. As Mother describes, that true freedom is when you are surrendered. You've given yourself totally to the ocean of the divine consciousness. You have nothing. You as a separate individual are part of that consciousness. It's absolute freedom. Now that is the heart of life. But hidden as yet, because it is working in the field of progressive manifestation of light, consciousness. At present, it is hidden. That mystic heart is not yet fully, has not yet emerged, because the downward pull of ignorance, unconsciousness, dullness is still there. So wherever there is an upward pull, there is also a downward pull. And man is caught in the middle. That which pushes us forward also pulls us back. There is doubt, there is disbelief, there is ignorance, there is failure. All these things have to be rooted out. But before they can be rooted out, it is as if Mother says they have to be brought out into the open. They can't stay in the hiding, they have to be brought out, they have to be brought out in the open, and then they have to be thrown away. To bring that out is when we pass through experiences that are difficult, that are painful. Unless we accept them and recognize their value, that through all these difficulties that I'm going through, I'm being given an opportunity to break down my resistance, my opposition, my acceptance of failure. I'm being given a chance to offer myself to the divine. Then it is possible that there will be an end to death. The end of death comes, as he says later in Savitri, the end of death, the death of ignorance. When ignorance dies, there will be no death. Today, we are more than half ignorant. So death is still the ruler. But it is something which is, in a sense, from the point of view of the eternal, a temporary truth. Death is not the ruler. Life is the ruler. Death is a mask, or death is something that at present is easier for us to go through in a way. Eternal life is unbearable unless we can stay constantly identified with the divine. Until then, we have to pass through these experiences. So,
What if you please repeat the 4 emanations?
One is the original emanation, truth, joy and love, consciousness, and life. So there was a perversity that took place. When we cut off the direct connection with the origin, the mother's, universal mother, she projected out of herself these 4 emanations. And then she gave them an enormous sense of responsibility. It is as if you go out into the spaces and create expressions of yourself. So forms, living forms, forms of joy, forms of consciousness, forms of truth, were created by these, you might say, emanations. They had a sense of self-importance. That is the danger. That very moment when truth thought, I am the author of this aspect of reality, truth became falsehood. Life became death. joy became suffering, and consciousness became inconscious. And that is why these are the first four great powers. They are also the great titans, the great asuras, because they have enormous energy. She gave them all her energy, but they developed this huge ego. And so she turned to the Lord, the mother, the creative force, and said, it didn't work. Ce n'est pas fameux. What do I do now? He says, start again. But this time, don't give them that much power, that much energy. Hold them in control. So the second batch of her emanations are the gods. These are perfect in themselves, but they don't have energy. Therefore, the gods don't really succeed in changing the earth. We are much more easily controlled by unconsciousness than by a God of consciousness. We are much more under the influence of suffering than feel the taste of perfect joy all the time. We can't. So these gods are, in a sense, luminous, beautiful, but weaker. There is that very beautiful little hymn in the hymn to Durga, where there is that prayer, give us, as to the children of India, it is said, a titan's knowledge, a titan's energy, to our hearts and intelligence, a God's character and knowledge. God's character and knowledge, but not energy. The titan has energy, but has lost the character. That is the whole thing. We have to have energy. We have to have power. As soon as we have power, the ego begins to grow. Wealth is power. Knowledge is power. Everything is power, actually. And therefore, it is very difficult to transform this. In the glow of the spirit's room of memories, he could recover the luminous marginal notes, dotting with light the crabbed, ambiguous scroll. He's using the image of as if something has been chalked out. Earlier also he says index page. He speaks of the book of beings, the original book of beings, as if the being, the supreme consciousness, wrote out a plan of the universe. And he wrote an index page. In the index page, there is usually you can find where, what, if you want to find something, you have to see this line, look at the index, it is there in this particular page. And text and glossary, also the Vedic truth, is as if everything has a certain indication. A glossary also gives us certain significances, meanings of the truth that is hidden behind the surface, the symbolic significances that are there behind the outward surface. That is where, as if within the archives of the spirit, there is an inner place where the memory is there. Memory is like archives. The archives are an external establishment of the past knowledge. All that the past knowledge has acquired has been put together so that when we have today, we read a text, we say, when did it start? When did Sri Aurobindo write at this book? What was he going through at this time? We know that there is a certain progression. Always there is a certain progression. There is nothing that is random, nothing that is chaotic. So in the same way, the spirit may be free, but the spirit has accepted to follow a certain pattern. And the systematic pattern is evolution. That evolution is stage by stage, it grows. He goes back to the original starting point because the memory is what connects us with the past. It's very important for us to develop memory. The ancients always believed in not losing contact with the origin. And this was taught through oral tradition. By oral tradition, that means you learn everything by heart. What was it? It is by heart. You contain in your heart. It enters into the very substance of your being, that knowledge. Today we read a book. The text is outside. I may connect with it in a certain way, but if the text is inside, it is part of me. And that is what the truth has to be. It has to be part of me, so that it will do its work in my being, gradually mold me, shape me, purify me, lift me up. So he went back to the origin. In the origin, he has gone into the world of darkness. He sees the spirit at work, the luminous marginal notes. Because you might say the starting point is matter, formless, tamasic matter, and yet dotted with light. Matter is so full of energy. Matter is not even material. Matter is not matter at all. Matter is pure energy. So that means darkness is not darkness, or resistance is not resistance. That's just a shadow, it's just an appearance. It is something that is like a launching pad for our greater widening of experience. He could recover the luminous marginal notes, dotting with light the crabbed, ambiguous scroll. Ambiguous, what has a double meaning. Something, you say life is a field of pain, a field of suffering. Life is ruled by death. That's one way of looking at it. You say at the same time life is a divine opportunity, a play of the supreme delight of manifestation. That's the other side. Which one is true? It's a field of ananda, or is it a field of gradual breaking down of ananda? It's a very old story, starting from the beginning. A division. At some point there is a division between darkness and light. And that is where it becomes ambiguous. Earth is below, nature is below, the divine is above. Man is not God. At some point he uses this as an explanation that I am incapable of divinizing myself on my own because I am different. He is divine, I am not. I want to justify my weakness, my failure. If I say I am also divine, I am a projection of the same divine. Yes, the coverings are still thick, like a very old text, like a very, very old book that has not really been read or understood for a long time. It becomes dusty. The pages become, brittle, crabbed. Crabbed is when very old and yellow pages of a book that has perhaps not been touched by centuries. Because we don't know how to read. If we read even the ancient texts today, if we read the Ramayana, if we read the Mahabharata even, they are not all that ancient, but if you read the Mahabharata, you will see they are not the story of people. It's a story of an evolutionary change. And one age is slowly being replaced by another. The breaking down of a certain state of being that is fighting against the emergence of a new light, a new consciousness. It's not one person against another. So it's a scroll, it's something that is slowly unraveling. The evolution of consciousness is not smooth. The opposition is constant. We break down all the time. And so these stories, always in the ancient times, in all countries, they represented different states of consciousness. All of them. Even in Greece, the Iliad, the Odyssey, Sri Aurobindo describes them also. All of them are representatives of a different state of evolutionary consciousness. You rescue the preamble and the saving clause. Preamble, the explanatory note that goes before. If you realize, I'm not telling you a story, Sri Aurobindo is telling us a story from Savitri. In fact, Savitri is from the Mahabharata. It's not from the Mahabharata, the original Mahabharata. It is a later edition. And that was how it used to be. It was such an infinite text, like life, like the world, that every poet worth the name found it necessary to add a few hundred slokas to the Mahabharata. So it's very difficult to say what is the original Mahabharata. Vyasa, for instance, you can't say. Sri Aurobindo could. He had started writing that. Starting eliminating, these are the original slokas by Vyasa. These are later editions by different people. And this is exactly life. It's a continuous unfolding. It's a continuous growth. It's a continuous accretion. You add one little note, one other. So these are like things that come, new inspirations, dotting with light, new openings that come as we go along. And the saving clause, the main theme. The main theme is always one. However complex the story, it's not a story. The universe is a story, if you like. The Mahabharata is a story, if you like. The Mahabharata is the universe, if you like. It's the same thing. Everything that is there in the universe is there in that book. But there is a saving clause. There is one central power. There is the divine who sustains, upholds, controls everything. The battle is not really fought between 5 brothers on the one side and the 100 brothers on the other side. It is really guided, dictated by one who knows. The charioteer, he knows. He is the saving clause. Otherwise it would have been a battle, continuous battle of different powers. But somebody who knows, in the universe is that, someone is always there to guide, to show the way. But there is a dark agreement. It is as if the divine allows the darkness to rule for a long, long time, by which all is ruled that rises from material nature's sleep to clothe the everlasting in new forms. Out of the absolute unconsciousness, the unity which is below manifests itself in diversity. When you have the diversity, you have naturally all different aspects. It's not sameness. The divine is not just one definition of perfection. The divine manifests himself in all forms that seem not to be perfect. He hides in the imperfect. He hides in the incomplete. He is there. The everlasting is there in that which is death-bound. Man is death-bound. He is hidden in us. He is hidden in the flower. In the small is contained the vast. That is the whole secret. So this is how he sees the whole play of manifestation, the play of the inconscience, which is actually a disguise or you might say, a stage. It's an intervening stage for the gradual emergence of more and more consciousness. He could reread now. Now he sees it in a different way, because he has done the yoga of the soul's release. In Canto 3, the soul was no longer trapped by the ego and the ignorance. So now his spirit is free and enters into the whole vastness of the Supreme Consciousness, a new interpretation of truth, a new acceptance of reality. The smaller our consciousness, the smaller our notion of reality. We have to make clear-cut definitions. If I become vaster, then I realize that the small is not the opposite of the vast. It is sometimes as vast as the supreme infinite. The infinite smallness is also the infinite. So he reads and interprets, gives a new explanation. It's strange symbol letters, scattered abstruse signs. Abstruse, things that we really can't understand. They are like figures, symbolic figures. An alphabet which I don't read, supposing there's a language I don't read, I can't understand. For me, it's an abstruse language. It doesn't make sense. But it doesn't make sense to me because I am not aware of that language. Supposing I have to read a Chinese text, for me it's abstruse. I don't read Chinese. That is not that the Chinese language is abstruse, but my knowledge of Chinese being is not there. So my knowledge of the universe is not there. My knowledge of reality is not there. So I see signs of the divine and I cannot read them properly. To read means to understand, to absorb. So we live in certain moments where indications are given, but we don't know how to accept them. We are constantly given indications of life. So he could reread now and interpret new. Its strange symbol letters, scattered abstruse signs, resolve its oracle and its paradox. Paradox where there is an apparent opposition. The oracle is there. The oracle is also a person. The oracle is also the truth that that person pronounces. To know the truth of the future. But the future, is it not present before the past? All things are heading towards a future that the divine has prepared. So all things are moving to that future which has always been there, that eternal. And the goal, the future is the goal. The goal precedes the journey. You went to Bombay. Bombay existed before you started your journey. So you go to the divine. The divine existed long before you thought of him and going towards him. So we say the future is tomorrow, but tomorrow comes before yesterday. Time is different. The past is not something that prepares the future. The future prepares the journey. This is the goal. You have to go to this goal. So for that goal, you follow this path. Each one has a particular path. That is the paradox, apparent paradox. Its riddling phrases and its blindfold terms, the deep oxymoron of the truth's repliques. Oxymoron is where you have opposites. Two words, you say something that is vastly small. And two words are contradictory. But that is the whole thing. The universe is something that is, you might say, a play field of opposite forces, of darkness and light. But if you say darkness is also light, then it's a deep oxymoron. But outwardly, darkness, or that which is completely unconscious, has no consciousness. But all this involves the involution, or the original involution of the divine. The divine plunged from the transcendent into the unconscious. And from that plunging down, all things have grown. So, and recognize as a deep oxymoron of its truth's repliques. repliques, answers, quick, sharp answers, and recognize as a just necessity its hard conditions for the mighty work. Nature's impossible Herculean toil, only her warlock wisecraft could enforce. Its law of the opposition of the gods, its list of inseparable contraries, sorry, last line. And recognize this play of dark opposite forces, which is the toil given to nature. Hercules is used here as a symbol. Hercules is also a link between heaven and earth. He was the son of Zeus, the son of God. His mother was human. So there is a kind of connection between the human and the divine. A being who is at the same time a child of the divine and the child of man. And that is the human being. The human being, because he is on earth, he does not cease to be divine. But he is not yet a fully expressed, fully developed divine being. His lower nature is still takes up a lot of room, lot of space, and so he identifies himself with what is undivine much more easily. It's a toil to take out from us our relationship, our acceptance of the lower nature. Its pull is so strong. It's Herculean. Only her warlock wisecraft. Warlock has nothing to do with war, by the way. Warlock is wizard. A warlock is a wizard. Not exactly a magician. A wizard is a person who had the secret knowledge of things that are behind the surface. They are not magicians. They have knowledge of that which already is there. It is there. That is wisdom. Wisecraft. Not wisdom. Wisdom which is power. Craft is also power. The original root, the word Kraft in German also is power. So wisdom is power. If you have the wisdom, you realize that the transformation, the power of transformation is already hidden. You can grow, you can transform your nature from the lesser to the greater because that power of transformation has been planted inside, which is there already, and that has to be allowed to develop. That is the whole play of nature, where there is the play of battle of opposites, because unless the battle takes place, you cannot really wipe off the attachment to the dark forces. We are attached, we identify ourselves with our weakness. So it's law of the opposition of the gods, they fight, they battle in us. We are the battlefield of all the forces. It's list of inseparable contraries. Because they are always together. Where there is darkness, there is light. Otherwise you can't use the word darkness. Darkness exists means what? It's the opposite of light. That means there is light already. Otherwise you would not coin the word darkness. Okay. This is the secret knowledge of the future, which is already there, waiting to be realized. And he, Sri Aurobindo, is the one who is going through it. He is describing his own yoga.